I'm here at the theater seeing Circle. Just walked out. I have to go to the restroom, but also I needed to walk out. It's stressful.
We the best.
Alright, headed back into the movie. More thoughts from me when it's over. What's up, car? Man, getting to see late night movies is really fun. I like that my parents are into that sort of thing. It was a really, really interesting movie. So in 2013 I came up with this idea called Bridge that was essentially like a community tech company that hoped to avoid the eventual end game I thought might be for like Google, Amazon, or Facebook, where they turn evil and have everyone's data and use it for nefarious purposes, a la the US government. And The Circle is basically about that. It's like that plot played out on the big screen. So it was super interesting to see, and I have some thoughts about it. I'll give you those tomorrow, I guess, or when I get home, whatever. I think this is a fitting video to make from the spot that I began my 1,000 videos series in, don't you? So, The Circle. It's a movie that's not maybe the best or most concrete or most well thought out plot in the world, but it combines some thematic elements that I've paid close attention to since 2013, and some things that I've learned a lot about since last year's 1,000 Videos project, so I figured I'd talk briefly about it in a video. Doing project-style videos now, sort of following a single theme with each video, telling a single story, instead of making daily vlogs. I like it. It's fun. So in that vein, let's dive in. Alright. It's a new day, and now we're actually going to dive in. So, The Circle, the main idea is that a lot of economic productivity when it comes to businesses, nowadays, especially social media businesses, comes directly from our personal data. People are selling ads to us based on what we like and what we've done, where we've been, and what conversations we're having. I've had friends who have like Instagram ads show up as we've been talking about a product. While they're scrolling through Instagram, an ad about that product will show up, which is kind of terrifying. I don't know if that's just like really good targeting on the part of Facebook, or if that's like actively using voice data. Who knows what they're doing, right? They have access to the camera and microphone. They could use it if they want. So worrying things are already beginning to happen. Now, when I first came up with the Bridge idea, which is essentially just WordPress, but for your personal data, it's like an open source platform that makes things a little bit easier to control from a granularity standpoint, what sort of companies have which data. It's a useful thing that will be valuable eventually. I don't think people realize the need for it yet, and so I've just sort of put that project on hold. I expected there to be big things happening in the couple years since 2013 that would make Bridge like a we have to build it now sort of thing, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen until maybe 5 years from now, the way things are going. But you got to think back in 2013, like Google Glass was a thing, HoloLens was on the verge of coming out. It looked like AR was going to take over as fast as smartphones did, and it hasn't. So augmented reality and voice communication, that will be the way we compute in the near future, but not as soon as I suspected. So it hasn't been like a super urgent thing for me to build Bridge. That said, I think that those same thoughts and concerns that I was having in 2013 were had by the author of this book, which was published in 2013, that The Circle is based on. And the Circle movie got made because those worries are prescient and valid, and those are things that are probably going to happen that people should actually be worried about. And so that's why the movie The Circle got made. It's why people are having these conversations about privacy and personal data. And it's why we're struggling through things like how to determine what news is real from fake, and how to trust people, and how do we function in a world and a society where a lot of the signifiers of status and trust and reliability are moot now. Like, the internet lets you get information from anywhere, but a lot of the ways we used to be able to verify that information aren't so useful anymore. And obviously, you know, there is still good journalism if you are willing to pay for it, but advertiser-supported journalism is going to be clicks-based, and it's going to be shitty because it's clicks based. And so if your one metric is keeping people's attention, the things you do to do that won't be necessarily the things they want. It will be the things that keep their attention. Strangely, people don't pay attention to the things that they think they want to pay attention to. And that unfortunate fact is causing a lot of rifts in how we spend our time online, how we distribute news and information, how we talk to each other, how we communicate with each other. I mean, it's why investors have pitch decks put together, because they want information in a specific format. People have a hard time delivering it in that format because it's not how humans naturally communicate. So there are a lot of interesting problems to be solved in the next couple of years. And I think blockchain, it's been obvious now for 4 years, is the way to solve those problems. Having a single reliable system that distributes verification across an entire audience rather than relying on a single third party, that just from an information theory standpoint lets you do some of the things that you need to do to be able to control personal data in a useful way. But of course, all of that's fancy words, and it doesn't really sound like anything when you're saying it, because no one knows what that means in a concrete sense right now. I think that's the problem with the circle, is that it's a leap for people to see Google or Facebook. It's not a leap for people to see Google and Facebook turning evil. However, it is a leap for them to see them changing how they live their lives to avoid that sort of thing, or dealing with the problem in a concrete way. Like, what are you going to do about it if they turn evil? There is nothing to do about it. And that's what I think is an important thing to be thinking about, an important thing to be doing things about. Part of the reason I made 1,000 videos in 1 year was to really concretely understand, how does my life change if I put a lot of it online, more than I'm comfortable with, even the parts that are boring or not flattering or not interesting, or what is that like for people? If there are 20-minute rants of me talking about how my business is failing on the internet, will that affect my dealings with business people? If I talk about personal relationships, is that going to affect my ability to build new personal relationships? If I make stuff that people don't watch, that's really bad, that's not interesting, I know how to make good, interesting things that are worth watching and sharing. That I can do. I've done that before. But if I put out 1,000 things that are not interesting, that aren't worth sharing, that are only really curious and interesting if you're curious about me as a person, what is the effect of that on my social media presence, on the way people perceive me in real life? It's been a very cool, fascinating learning experience, and it's something that I couldn't go and read a book and find out, because it hasn't really been done before. And I think online video is exciting for that reason. But I think the way we live our lives on social media should be more intentional, or at least not necessarily more intentional, but maybe we should be more open to living our lives differently on social media, or living our lives in a certain way on social media. I'm not sure how I want to say that. I think a great example, a great story I can tell you is I have a friend who's a scientist who doesn't have a social media presence at all, and is worried about her personal data being out there online. Like, she's not creating a Facebook because she doesn't want Facebook to have this power over her, right? And a lot of people are like, I don't want to have a Facebook because I don't want to spend my time scrolling through this timeline. That's a whole separate problem. She doesn't have a Facebook because she's worried about her personal data, okay? The thing is that the personal data you give Facebook is the sort of data you'd want Facebook to have. It's for your friends, it's for your family, it's the stuff they'd want to see online. It is not your social security number. It is not your birth date. It is your birth date. But it's not the sort of stuff that people have any meaningful use for, and there's so much of it online already that, security and banking and those things are separate issues. They are not what you're dealing with when you're making a Facebook. And cybersecurity is a whole nother can of worms that we can talk about in another 10-minute video where I rant. But not making a Facebook is not a cybersecurity issue. It's not. Because the kind of data you're sharing there is the sort of data you want shared. And that's a thing that I think global culture is figuring out what that sort of data is. What do we as people here on the earth want to share openly with everybody, and then what do we want to share with just our friends? What do we want to share? Now that information is no longer bounded by time and space, as of the last 10 years, everyone has access to the internet. And as we bring on 4 billion more people into this paradigm where the information about them is not bounded by time and space, what structures do we want to set up? How can we make things useful, interesting, and fun and productive for these 4 billion people and for ourselves online? What sort of things do we want to share? What things are worthwhile? What is worth putting online? What's worth keeping offline? How do we want our online offline time to be spent? How do we want to spend time with each other? I went on a date recently that had so much phone use that I nearly went insane. And you know, I mean, obviously that problem has been brought up over and over and over again. How do we integrate our lives with these computers that are making our lives so much better, and then not forget what the most fun parts of being a human are? Which is, you know, spending time face to face with each other, being in each other's presence and company, talking and meeting new people and doing things that aren't predictable and that you can't, there aren't metrics and analytics already for. Those are the most exciting parts of the human experience. And how do we pick and choose parts of our lives we want to be analytical and to be social media and to be publicly shared and to be private and to be personal and to be intimate? And those are new questions, and they're very interesting. But they're questions that we should not be left to, that should not be left for Facebook and Amazon and Google to figure out for us. They are questions that we should be collaboratively building the answers for together, like we did with websites originally, thanks to WordPress. I think that's why Bridge is useful. I think that's why we should have an open source social platform on which people collaboratively and actively decide what sort of data they want shared where, with who, for what purpose. Because those social mores are going to get set, and either they're going to get set, like this circle suggests, by an evil company that is Apple or Google or Facebook or Amazon, something that has scale and is already a part of people's lives, has 1 million credit card numbers. You know, that sort of company is going to set the social precedent. Or we can open it up with a open source tool that lets us set this social precedent for what we want our online lives and realities and personal experiences to be like. When you live half of your life in VR and AR and half of your life in real life, here in the meat space world interacting with other human beings, but then you spend half of your time interacting with VR human beings in a digital world, it's going to be very important to you that that world was built by people like you and not by big corporations. And that's why I think that's something worth solving here in the next 5 years. It's something worth building. And right now, in the meantime, I've focused on getting my personal finances in order, building a business that I love, that's fun, that provides a ton of passive income, making sure my family life's at 100%, that I'm enjoying time with family and friends in a constructive and meaningful way, and building a life I love living. And at the same time, seeing how I can do social entrepreneurship, whether that's sending people to study abroad, whether it's helping raise money for other companies to send people to study abroad, whether it's just learning how to raise money in general and put people's money that is not mine to work for purposes that I think is useful, you get what I'm saying? Those are the things those are the core skills that I'm going to need to build Bridge, and the foundations for my life, for like the rest of my adult life, that I've been working on for the last couple of years. The mission is still, you can read it on my blog. It's just mora.co/goals. It's there. The next 70 years of my life are planned. I know what I want out of them. I'm excited about those things. And there are a lot of opportunities that come up along the way that other people would say yes to that I have to say no to, just because I know how that end game plays out. I know what a full-time job looks like when I'm 60. I know what getting married right now looks like when I'm 60. I know what having a family and starting, I know what these things look like, and I don't want those things. I want new and different things. I want to gather new data. I want to experiment. I want to try things that haven't been tried, that I don't have answers for, because I can read a lot of books and I can find out about other people's experiences, but then the things I can't read books about and I can't find out about other people's experiences for, I want to do those things in my own life. I want to try those things and see how they work out. That's how I'm living life, and that's what I'm excited about. And hopefully that will lead to building this thing that prevents the circle plot from ever happening. And that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about it. Thanks for listening to me ramble and rant. It's been fun. I'll put some links in the... I feel like there should be 2 links. There should be my blog posts, and then there should also be something I mentioned earlier in this video. An app or something? I don't even remember. But if I watch this back and remember, there will be a link for that too. So go check out the description. I'll see you in the next one. Adios. Bye-bye.